to say her name.
Let's hear your impression of your wife, Justin.
Nope. Welcome to the Rewatchers on the Pod. You're here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
and our thrice returning special guest,
Truman Blanchard.
Oh, Truman, thank you. This is part 3 of 3 of our series on Made in Abyss, which I've just learned the direct translation from Japanese for the title of this is, they're just children. Why, God? Why? What have you done? Why are we doing this? They definitely went with the pithier title for the English release, which I appreciate. But yeah, we watched Made in Abyss, Dawn of the... I'm going to mess it up again. Dawn of the Deep Soul. I keep wanting to say Dark Soul.
I keep wanting to say Voyage of the Dawn Shredder.
Okay, yeah. Man, there's a crossover we desperately need.
Dawn of the Dark Soul. This is actually a Dark Souls origin story.
Yeah, exactly.
That would make more sense than it makes to me right now.
Fair enough.
Yeah, this was like, I don't know if it's just well, I guess I watched like the first 8 episodes of this almost in one sitting, really. But man, this is like just packed with stuff. I do want to talk about it structurally just because I think there are definitely some weaknesses and some strengths to like doing it in a movie like this. This kind of arc of story or whatever. Oh, that's called a story arc. They have a name for that. But yeah, let's just go ahead and dive in because I have no idea where to start with this. It is insane. But this picks up pretty much immediately where we left off with the episodes. Kind of the bridge between this and those last episodes. We know that some time has passed where they've been Nanachi, Riko, and Reg have been preparing and upgrading stuff, making new backpacks. We saw this cool little montage at the end. I will say just right off the bat, one of the things I was disappointed in, we did not get any surface kids, no Nat or any story going on there, which I'm still like just eagerly, I just want to know what they sent up and what the kids up top know now and what's going on with I'm gonna forget the kid's name, the one that's sick
Kiwi?
that's on it. Kiwi, thank you.
Kiwi?
Yeah,
Something?
yeah. That kid. How he's on a boat now, and there's like
a Bloody Mary curse for people on their birthday where you like
right,
look in the mirror and say your name or something.
Yeah, which we didn't get any of. Should probably understand because honestly, the movie felt short for the amount of information that it was shooting at us just constantly. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and get started. We get it starts there, not quite to the 5th layer at the beginning, right?
Correct.
Okay. And we encounter some just more horrific creatures that burrow into your brains, and I didn't even absorb all of the things that they could do because it was like, yeah, they burrow into your brains. Also, they crawl in the mouths of the people to keep them alive longer. It's crazy. This show has so much like lore and world building in it that it is kind of hard as a show, I think, for it to communicate that a lot of the time.
Definitely. That's something that, as good as the world building in the show and the movie is, I think in the manga it's better. The title cards for the episodes in the show show drawings of creatures or whatever from the abyss with captions, and in the manga those are full-page descriptions of stuff to just build the world out a little bit.
Oh, yeah. So it is just insane. But we do and we talked about this last time because the way that the season of episodes ended, we have this new character, Bone Druid, who we were all like hoping that we would find out more about at some point. Turns out that time is now, and there's a lot of stuff to find out. But let's. I don't know. I don't even know where to start with this.
What is his cronies' names? I can't remember what they're called.
Umbra Hands.
Yeah.
Umbra Hands. We meet our first one really, kind of in the insect field, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who. That moment was interesting because there was no hostility really. I mean, there was on Reg's side, I guess, but like it was hard to read what was going on with that guy. I really liked his design. I really liked the sound of his like. They do a really good job of the sound design in this on people's voices and characters' voices. And obviously the art direction is really cool and characters like all of Bone Druid's crew. I'm like, yeah, I draw this shit. But yeah, that character in particular reminded me very much of like a Star Wars alien, like something you'd see in the background. But yeah, he's very, I don't know, devoid of emotion and very matter of fact, and that kind of comes into play later, I feel like. And it's sort of explained, right?
Sort of.
Yeah, I do. We get one of my favorite lines in this movie, which is him. He's like, they scream. I mean, it's a reflexive utterance.
When he extracts the specimen, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, that shit's real good.
That scene was my favorite of the entire movie.
It's all downhill for you from there.
A little bit. But the flowers on fire reminded me of the climactic scene in The Girl with All the Gifts. Anyone?
Mm-mm.
Anyone?
Oh, I haven't seen that. No.
Really?
Not
No,
yet.
book.
Haven't read it yet.
Bad.
Oh no,
It's
I'm
a
thinking
book.
of the zombie movies on Netflix.
Yes.
Is
But
that
read the
based
book.
on the book though?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't wrong.
Wait, there's a book and a show called Girl with All the Gifts about zombies.
The Girl with All the Gifts.
Do they share a plot?
Gifts.
Gifts.
Like presents.
The girl with all the gifts. You text her.
She's a meme
She
smith.
never texts words.
Taking videos of zombies. I can make a gif out of this. Just watch.
You guys have guessed the whole plot. I guess you don't have to read it.
I love how we take when.
How do you
book
read
titles
a
and
book
just
about
twist them.
gifts?
We did that with Little Fires Everywhere, and now it's a thing about masturbation. I don't remember how we
Oh
got
my
there.
god! Little fires everywhere. Yeah, that's.
You guys are so mean to my poor books. Although,
I'm sorry, but
little fires everywhere. Whatever.
So, but like.
It just. No one's read it. It was a cool scene. Okay.
Okay.
Where there's burning flowers?
No.
Oh.
There's burning other things.
Little Fires Everywhere. It's all coming together.
Yep.
Um,
I'm sorry. I really want Justin to read it, so I'm not going to spoil it.
Okay, good.
but after that charming scene, where do we go? I can't remember what happens next.
We go down. That's
They make
when
it to
in
the
doubt.
fifth layer.
Yeah.
Do they go immediately to the base after that? Oh, he does say
Close.
yeah, the dawn of the King of the Dawn Treader or whatever the fuck is waiting for you.
The King of the Dawn Treader, which is a stand-in for Jesus.
C.S.
I think.
Lewis is waiting for you.
That's what's at the bottom. C.S. Lewis's desiccated corpse surrounded by drafts of various Christian...
It's just all the leaders of different Christian faiths just sitting there worshiping his corpse.
The way you said giraffe sounded like giraffes.
That's what I said.
Yes.
So now there's my headcanon. C.S. Lewis surrounded by Christian giraffes.
All bowing.
Uh-huh.
And that's when a giraffe bows, you know it's business time.
I told you I needed to watch a Disney movie. There's a Disney movie at the bottom of the pit.
One can only
Hopefully.
hope. Oh, get these
Put
kids.
Song of the South.
Damn it. I don't want to go there anymore.
This show, seriously, I am in a state right now after watching this. Like, it is.
I'm a little numb.
Yeah,
That's how I feel.
I'm about to cry. I don't know what this show is.
Cry from confusion, sadness.
Yes.
It's
Horror.
okay. I will say this. This show feels hopeful and I have no fucking idea why. Like, nothing good ever happens.
After they eviscerate several children, it cuts to like a hugging gag.
Yes.
And,
Well, like,
and they're like, well, on our adventure with this corpse around my neck, let's go.
well, it's like the best thing, like the biggest success that we had in the last little while was killing like this, like her friend. Like that was like one of the biggest victories. It's like, oh my God, this is the upside. Like this is the good part. And man, Rico is like the emotional Teflon, just like able to weather all things. Like it is. Yeah, it really is. Like I mean, they're starting this final now. Okay, sorry, this is just me trying to like kind of like contextualize everything and try to hold on to any hope I have for this narrative. They know of 7 layers.
Yes.
Okay, they are entering the 6th, from whence
5th.
they will never return, supposedly, from what we've
Final
gathered.
dive.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Look, honestly, they better fucking not. They are messed up children, and I do not want them in the world.
They're the problem. They're the problem.
They keep going deeper. Why do they keep going deeper?
Because they can't go back.
Mom is.
Every time they try to go upstairs, they start bleeding out of their eyeballs.
She doesn't care that she's her mom. She cares that she's a white whistle who spawned her. That's all she cares about. I don't understand anyone's motivations at all. Zero.
Maybe try being an orphan, Gwen, then you'll understand.
Seems your emotions are a little
Think I'm wound a little tight.
little bit. The
Maybe
juxt-
because there were children in briefcases.
You know, technically not briefcases. They're more like, you know those things at the bottom of basketball hoops that you like fill with sand to keep them down?
I was thinking those little droid things from Star Wars that
Jesus.
you push in you punch them in the nose and they fold up.
pit droids?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what they looked like. The little eyeball thing.
I
that's,
mean,
like,
maybe the
sticking out
opening.
and-
Yeah, I could see that.
That's what I
I'm
thought.
sticking with my basketball weight sand theory, though.
the juxtaposition of the lightheartedness and the horror of the abyss is it's so hard. It's such whiplash tonally. Like even as they reach the 5th layer, they go fishing. They pull out the squid thing,
Right.
and then
which
they
I
tear it
forgot
apart
about.
with their hands
Yeah.
and turn it into
By
sushi.
the eyeball? Was that what I was seeing?
Yeah.
Like they all grabbed a rim of the eyeball.
Yeah, and just pull it apart.
Yeah. Now, it's crazy because that is one of the most adorable
Yeah.
pieces like that I've seen in the last 2 hours of Made in Abyss I've seen. And that scene's great.
Mm-hmm.
I think so okay. It probably sounds like I don't like the I really do like this show. I'm just trying to figure out why. It's so different.
It's different than last week because last week we had enough material to dance around.
Exactly.
What?
Yeah. This is just fucking here it is.
But now it's
Heavy the whole time.
right from the beginning.
Eat this concentrate straight from the can. Yeah, it really is such an incredibly difficult. It's just so hard to handle. But I mean, I think for me, one of the strengths of the show, and it's been a strength throughout it, and I think it does a great job in this movie as well. But like the relationships between our like the core of the group, Rika, Regan, and Nanachi now, those relationships are for the most part very like pure and wonderful, and like I think that's why I'm there for them. The one of the things that happens just constant, like I think it happens 3 or 4 times in this movie, is Nanachi like says something and anyone who's around her is so overcome by emotion that they immediately just tackle her to the ground and start crying. And like that's like this really pure and wonderful thing, and then we just cut to just fucked up experiments like but yeah, I think for me that's what it is right now that's really like pulling me through. Like, it really does feel like Rico, as she is pulling everyone further down, is pulling me with her, because I want her to be safe, and I don't want her to change that much. But I'm very afraid that that's going to happen soon. But yeah, it's such a difficult, I think, especially like with this movie. I think that's the other thing I wanted to talk about just really briefly is like, this being structured as a movie is so different from the show. And I think the parts in the show that work better, and we've kind of touched on it a little bit, is the world building stuff, because it feels like there's enough time where those kind of asides or inserts of kind of that exposition don't feel bad. They don't feel like they're bogging anything down.
Just when they're traveling, when they're walking around,
Yeah.
they can see things. Rico will point something out.
Exactly.
Greg will ask a question, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And in this, it's kind of like in the midst of a lot of that action. And so it's, I know I didn't absorb half of it, I don't think, this time. I got the gist. I knew there were kids in suitcases. I don't fully understand, and maybe Truman, maybe you can like help me understand it, or anyone else might have gotten this. I don't quite understand at this point a blessing and a curse as an actual thing in the world. You know what I mean? I mean, they described that Nanachi has been given a blessing.
She's described as being
right?
blessed, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have like more insight on that from like what you've read and stuff, or is that still pretty like
It's nebulous, I think, and in the manga they go back and forth on what is actually a blessing and what is a curse.
interesting?
Like Nanachi considers what happened to her to be a curse. The people at Ito front think it's a blessing. There's another character later on in the manga who has similar things happen where from her perspective it's awful. From everybody around her, they're like, "Oh, that's great! Like, what a gift!"
Sure.
It's very bizarre.
Yeah. But I guess that is interesting, and like hearing that it's kind of this explored thing. You know, I like the idea of that being nebulous and like very open to interpretation by it. Like that is really interesting.
Well, and as far as Nanachi being the blessed one, I think from Bone Druid's perspective, it makes sense that he would consider her to be blessed.
Sure.
Like her transformation is the path towards his goal.
Yeah.
And so it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Which he kind of
go ahead.
achieves later, like from rising up, right?
Mhm.
Through out
Right.
of that pit, and he becomes a furry, and that's everyone's dream apparently. So
I want to give props to the manga and the anime for this, the author, because he takes the transformation that happens to Nanachi and he does the same thing to Bone Druid.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've played games and watched things. I think of Resident Evil 7 in particular, where people get infected with the mold and they turn into these goop monsters.
Yeah.
In the DLC, Zoe gets infected with the
That's
fungus and she turns into like a Final Fantasy crystal girl.
Yeah.
And it's like, that seems inconsistent, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure.
So the fact that the in-world thing that happens is you turn into some fluffy creature is consistent. It's weird. I don't know why it happens, but I appreciate the consistency.
Yeah.
Was that his entire goal? I don't understand what he was after. Like, because it seemed like he wanted to find a way to beat the curse.
Mm-hmm.
But then after Nanachi, he was like, I want to be fluffy.
Because she's not affected by the curse.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
I
At
see.
all.
Yeah.
and I assume he still had work to do before Reg blew the shit up out of his
Yes.
base. So it's like,
So,
I mean, what I got from it was like, he just hadn't really like gotten around to turning himself into a fluffy, blessed one.
well,
right.
he couldn't.
He needed someone
Oh,
who
he
loved
needed
him.
someone who loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Speaking of someone who loves Blanchard, God damn it. Prushka is the new character in this.
She's technically the only new character in this
Yeah,
because all the other characters are just part of Bone Druids.
that's
and
true.
Unless you count the little hamster.
Fucking Horcrux. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of that thing.
Mean.
Zoaholic or something like that.
No, that's
Oh.
that's
the butt.
the butt.
Yes, it is the butt. You're talking about Menya?
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
the hamster.
Um,
This is ASL for hamster, guys.
is it really?
For all of our audio only listeners out there,
That seems like
Great podcast content.
yeah, just two cupped hands. It feels like a very that's like a very easy sign. Someone had to communicate hamster frequently and quickly. They're like, we got it. This has got to be it.
No. It's gonna be a great bit on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm so disoriented.
it's draining. One thing I want to bring up as far as Bondrud goes that isn't, I don't know, I don't think they get this across in the movie as far as his motives go. It is implied in the manga that every 2,000 years or so, near or in the abyss, there is a cataclysm. They find the praying skeletons at the top, right?
Right.
And then it is revealed that they do an excavation near that area and they find underneath them another group of praying skeletons who are 2,000 years older than that. Then they excavate below that and they find another group of skeletons that are 2,000 years older than that. And so his line about preparing for the next 2,000 years makes more sense in that context. They don't talk about that in the movie.
I didn't get that at all.
Yeah.
And that is a weakness that the movie has, talking about the show,
Sure.
is it has to cover a lot in a little bit of time. And because it is a movie, it can't be paced the same way as the TV show.
Yeah.
A plus side is the animation budget was higher. The animation was beautiful the entire time. And that was something I was paying attention to. This was the second time I've seen the movie. There weren't any shots that looked weird or like unfinished or...
I feel like there were two I noticed, and it's understandable why it was a heavy action sequence at the end.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot less details put in, which is you see that very frequently. But that's like normally in those moments they cut so much that it's like there's just a still drawing, but they kind of like drag it across the screen, right? Like if that was like a normal animation where it's like this, they were still fully animated, which was nice. And I mean, it worked. It was a smart cut there because it was the heavy motion and like I don't know, it fit the tone of what was going on. So it's like it's a smart place to make those cuts, I think. But yeah, the animation was exceptional in this, and the animation in the show's not bad. It's just
No, it's just something I had noticed in particular this time. Like while rewatching the show, they would do cutouts and they would have the characters far away with very little detail, and that did not happen much this time.
Yeah,
around.
the very first shot we see them from pretty far away, and it's very elaborate and detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I will say I'm excited. We've mentioned this before, but it has been renewed for another season in the format of a show, which I am excited for that. Because going into this, I was like, well, maybe it's just because I know that they cut the first 13 episodes into 2 movies. We've briefly talked about that, and so I was like, maybe let's keep making movies. But I am glad. I think I do appreciate the pacing of the show for this world in particular, and so I'm interested to see more of that, and I'm just excited to see more of the story for sure. But yeah, so let's talk about Pershko. We just kind of mentioned her briefly.
Too soon.
The horrific parts of this movie probably all mostly belong to Prushka, who we understand, and tell me if I'm reading this wrong, but basically she is a child of an Umber Hand. Is that right? And because of that was like some kind of birth defects. I don't know. Something was wrong with her. I didn't fully understand.
It's one line that the Umber Hand says. There was a crash of the gondola that he uses to get around in the abyss and to take people down. And she was the sole survivor of that. And experienced the curse to some degree as part of that crash.
Okay. And basically Bondrud then decides to use her as that missing piece that he needs to be able to achieve his transformation or whatever.
And we don't know that when we meet her. I
Right,
think is
yeah,
important.
Yeah, that is important. When we first meet her, she's just a fucking plucky, awesome, super. That first interaction, that was actually a really hilarious part of this movie, is when they first get there, and Nanachi has been very clear with Reg. It's like, don't say shit. Keep your lips sealed. And just the attempts of Prushka to get information from him, which then just quickly turns to like just abject fear that someone might not like her actually or something. It's like really wonderful and really good.
And such a childlike thing. Like, hey, do you want to touch my hat? It's kind of cool, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah. What bargaining power do I have left? Now they've asked the same question 4 times. I have a cool hat. Want to touch this cool hat? Yeah, but she and we also get she develops this very this great relationship with Rico and kind of reveals some more things about the world to Rico that are kind of help her or at least form this very strong bond between the two. But yeah, and then we get I'm trying to remember the whole chain of events, because that's the other thing. I feel like the movie, and the show does this too, but the movie has a lot of these like flashbacks after, when something is revealed, you're then taken back and seen how the sausage is made, like the entire thing. Bad choice of phrase, I think, but the like,
oof.
I just felt bad when I said it. But those, I think, in the structure and pacing of the movie can feel real overwhelming too.
And it can be hard to place them, I think.
Because I think in particular when we get that flashback to Prushka, like way back before, when we're getting the Umber Hand like explanation, it did take me a minute to like realize what was happening, that it wasn't just some other you know what I mean? Like, anyways, but we find out that he's making cartridges of these kids, which is like only I can't even.
Which is somehow more fucked up than sending kids down in tubes to transform into like mindless husks.
Yeah,
and that Nanachi assisted with it.
Oh yeah.
Well, just plot wise, they get to the base, they meet Prushka, they run into Bone Druid, and he says, "Yeah, come on in. You can be here. You won't be able to use the lift that goes to the 6th layer because white whistles can only be used by their original owners." He invites them to stay, and they do, which I'm mixed on that because he's Nanachi's history with him, but I don't know that they had anywhere else to go.
I will say, like, when they were shown to that room, I was like, this does not feel like a thing. Like, I don't think Nanachi would even enter that room.
That's
like,
a vault door.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's Prushka there who I don't know what she is. She's the cheese in the mousetrap for them, or something like that.
There's a toilet that leads to your death, which is great because it's also just like a traditional Japanese toilet where it's literally just a slit in the ground. You have to like squat and hold yourself up while you're taking a dump. It makes it that much more harrowing.
Yeah. I mean, this world does present like probably the easiest way out of the abyss at this point is like just jump in the toilet. That's what I probably would have done.
That's what I feel like when I take a dump on an airplane and you flush. You're like, I'm gonna get sucked out.
It's exactly like that.
I just have this just must be like playing into like these latent fears that Japanese children have about their toilets. Like, if I fall in, I am dead. This is just like a cultural thing that everybody in Japan experiences.
They have like some weird like lore and myths about toilets. Like, did you ever play Majora's Mask?
I was about to.
I haven't, no.
The hand that comes out, that's like not something that was made up for that game. That's like a legitimate like legend that there's a dude living in the toilet. And like, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong here. Maybe I'm mixing this up with something else, but like, there's a certain amount of like wipes or something that if he wipes your butt and it's clean, you live or something. I can't remember like that. Like, something like that. I can't remember if I'm mixing that up.
There's gotta be a better way to teach kids. There's gotta be. Come on.
Yes, it's by making them into cartridges. Have you learned nothing? Into N64 cartridges. That's what he was trying to do.
Sticks it on his shoulder.
That's why it didn't work. He blowing it.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, let's talk about these cartridges because it's not just Prushka. It's essentially like are we to believe it's been all the kids since the Nanachi MIDI incident?
I don't know if it's all of them, but lots of them.
Lots of
That
them.
was
Man's
his
got lots of
breakthrough.
different projects.
Right. Which the scene where we have with Nanachi when they're in the like surgery room and stuff is very, very tough. I think Nanachi is like probably my favorite character in this show, just from like the side of like complexity and like intensely difficult questions to answer and ponder. Like, she's the vehicle for all like so much of that right now. And it's hard.
She's not. I should say they, because fun fact, we don't actually know if Nanachi is a boy or a girl.
Sure.
We never know. I'll stick with she. She's like the adult in the group, even though she's not an adult. But like she doesn't have the innocence that Rico and Reg have. Let's say.
And we know why. Like it's very obvious why. But yeah, that scene like stands out. I think that's another thing that I can say about this show is, I haven't watched a ton of anime. I'm not the expert here. But the times that I have, there lots of times they will take swings at big emotional moments, and they're probably about 40-60 as far as like successes. I feel like a lot of the big emotional swings this show takes land definitely not comfortably, and they are swinging with a bat that is larger than they should probably be holding because they go some places. But I will say that like a lot of those emotional moments, aside from maybe the smaller, like just like, whoa, crying and tackling people, like that stuff's all a little like weirder. But I feel like the big emotional moments where they want these character moments do feel earned and feel impacting, at least. But yeah, I think that all that stuff with her, and even her confrontation with Bondrude at the end, while like not satisfying necessarily in the way that I might have wanted it to be, like it is satisfying, and it is, I feel like, true to her character at least, which I like. Yeah. I feel like we keep talking. I feel like this is very meandering, but
let's get some smaller moments out of the way. Like, I say smaller moments, but like there's, I guess the smallest one I can think of after this point is like, they all go to sleep, and then, we see Nanachi leave, and she has a conversation with Bondrude, which I found interesting, which we didn't really get to see too much of, but then Rico wakes up, and then we also now see that Reg is gone. And so she goes to pee in the death toilet, and then she runs into Prushka.
Right.
And Prushka's like, dude, I got this cool animal that can, like, if you sniff it, you get high, you can see where it goes, and then you can avoid the sickness blanket.
Well, and this is after Rico, looking for Reg, and Nanachi has gone up a flight of steps that she was explicitly told not to go up because she would get hit with the strains of ascending the curse.
Right.
And she gets hit hard enough that she grinds some of her teeth down.
She has a Pink Floyd moment where it's just this crazy, trippy, disintegrating into dust. What is back anymore?
Yeah.
And that's how I feel when I listen to Pink Floyd. But yeah, so like oh sorry.
This is something I'm having a hard time like wrapping my head around in this show is Rico. Okay. Riku's Kingdom Hearts.
Yes.
Rico, like, she ascends at least 3 times. Once she doesn't really, I guess twice she doesn't have a choice. So once she goes up the hill and hallucinates, and then the second time she gets pulled up avoiding the hedgehog thing and bleeds from every orifice. And then she chooses to go up the stairs.
Because she's afraid of what might be happening to Reg and Nanachi. With good reason, as we find out.
Yeah.
Like she says, like, I can't remember how she worded it, but she was like, the risk of doing this is pretty high, but like the risk of whatever, if I miss out on whatever's happening.
Yeah, I guess.
Which the way the line was delivered made it sound like she was just like missing out on something, but like, I don't know if something was lost in translation there, but it seemed like the intent was like, my friends might be in danger and I can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
guess
there.
given where she was. But again, they walked into that facility. They under their own power. Without
It's the
duress.
only way to go where they need to go, though.
I
The
know, but they
eyeball
didn't like
elevator's
try
there.
and sneak in or like.
Well, and I think I think maybe that's the interesting thing about Rico, and one of the things that's hard to reconcile with a lot of what happens in the show is she really is like, there are moments where she's faced by stuff like we see that with Prushka later in the movie, but like she is so single-minded. It's hard to really be on board with a lot of what she might want to do sometimes. So I'm like kind of with you on that. It's
Yeah.
like,
I mean, and
It's hard.
It's the same for every adult that goes down into the abyss too. Like,
sure.
why?
Yeah.
Cool adventure time.
Yeah.
But the price seems unbelievably high, and I just don't get it yet.
Well, and it's interesting.
That's part of the mystery, is what
Yeah.
I'll say.
Yeah.
It just sorry. Go ahead.
No, please finish.
Well, for a show that likes to tell more than it shows, the reason, the mystery of why everyone wants to go down seems really understated.
Haven't you? I mean, I know you have, because we read the same books and we talk about them. You've encountered mysteries where you can't leave it alone and you have to figure out what the answers are.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean, this is all, in defense of Rico's character, this is all that she knows.
Yeah, that's true. And like, I hated this, and I still kind of want to keep watching. So, I guess I get it.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I may be reading way too much into things and making things up here. I honestly feel like this show is like, I mean, it obviously is like a coming of age story, but it's like, I think it's more than just that being the genre of the type of show it is. I feel like it's kind of a whole metaphor for growing up and becoming an adult and how that just fucking sucks. And like we've talked about, every adult in this is a fucking scumbag. And I think also in this movie, with Bone Druid being every adult in this movie, like, and as soon as you get rid of him, someone else just replaces him. I think that's also very metaphorical about adult human beings. I mean, it's a very bleak outlook on everything, and I think that's so weird in the juxtaposition of Rico's character. And I think that is where I would guess that's where the show is going, of how either her innocence is either going to become corrupted as she reaches the bottom adulthood, or is going to be able to defeat that and overcome that, I think.
Maybe that's why she gets to leave the abyss without dying, is because she's not corrupted by growing up.
I don't think she's going to get out.
Yeah,
No, I don't either.
I
honestly.
feel like the way that this show treats its rules, they're never getting back to the fucking top. Like,
I do think it's interesting that going up in the 5th layer is not as overtly immediately disturbing as ascending in the 4th layer.
Yeah.
Like 4th layer, you're bleeding from every orifice. And for Rico, it was particularly bad because she was poisoned. 5th layer is more psychological, but ends up with physiological damage as well.
Sure.
So,
And they haven't really explained, maybe they have, and I just missed it, about like they're going down to, well, are they going down to the 6th layer now? Is that where they're going?
Yes.
And that's like, as far as they know, the bottom?
No, that's the
There's-
cutoff point where a human being cannot go from the 6th to the 5th layer without dying or losing their humanity.
Okay, so...
Which is why going to Edo Front and going in the sub is the last dive for a human.
Okay, so none of the White Whistles have actually done that?
In the manga, we know Liza's down there in
Yeah.
theory, and then Bondrud mentions the 2 of the others who are mentioned have also taken the last dive.
And have not returned. So that,
And
rule,
have not
that rule
returned.
still stands for them.
Yes.
Did I send up the balloons?
Yes.
Okay.
We're down here chilling, suffering, and
Woohoo! Love it.
Back to Nanachi's motivations. Her conversation with Bondrud, she basically says, yeah, I'll work with you again. And I had a hard time with that, given what happened. He's shown, and maybe more implied than shown, to be very charismatic. But she says, yeah, I'll work with you on the condition that you don't hurt them. You let them go through. At which point he says, oh, no, you misunderstand. Like, I had to find out some things about Reg, which is when we transition to the scene with Reg getting experimented on by the Umbra Hands.
Which is horrifying.
Yes.
The dialogue in that scene is what is the they say must see?
Yeah,
needs-
like need to see.
Yeah, very like just like fucking soulless dialogue in that scene where they're removing his arm and all that. Yeah. That's like a really haunting scene. I feel like in this in a forest of haunting scenes. That's one that I remember. But yeah, I think that I think also is this the sorry this feels like maybe the longest that that we've seen in like a single area with people. Like I feel like there's less diversity of like locales in this movie than we've seen like in the series so far, which I think also contributes to this I don't know how to say it, but kind of a weight in this, like this. It feels there's no real reprieve from anything else. Like a lot of places we see really horrific things and it's taking place in a really gorgeous, awesome thing where there are upside down trees or like a fucking just fields of flowers. And then this is just a desolate tundra and we see some terrible things and then we see more desolate tundra. And
Or some sand.
Or some sand. Yeah, exactly.
That's about it.
Exactly. Let's talk about Reg real quick because a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of like I feel like things we haven't seen with Reg. Have we seen him helicopter himself around with his arm before?
One arm.
One arm. Yeah, right. He's down an arm.
Wait, when did he
Have we done
helicopter
that before?
himself?
I don't think so. I think that's. I mean, we're skipping over like the entire section where he's nega reg.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like he mentions like the somebody that possessed him or controlled his body, like made him remember how to use it the right way or how to move around correctly.
And did was it also implied that there's like multiple somebodies?
I think so.
Yeah.
Not just one other entity in him or whatever. Like,
And the shot that they show of the multiple somebodies looks like Liza wearing his helmet.
Yeah,
which I
that's
think is
what-
interesting.
yeah.
I couldn't quite make out the face if that was what it was supposed to be or not.
At least hair-wise, it looks like Liza.
Dude, this is close to my theory. That fucking Reg is Liza. It's not quite my theory, but it's close. Oh shit, that makes things really awkward.
Speaking of awkward, if you had a furry friend,
No. We're just
We didn't mention last
No.
time about how they keep touching her.
no.
And the last time she was like, "But you touched me in a lewd way," or something like that.
I'm going to go to bat for Reg on this one because he's a child. And I don't think that his interactions with Nanachi in his mind are sexual.
here's the thing: they weren't in my mind either.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's but it is interesting. Like I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, it's played off so much for a gag that
Yeah,
I don't think there's you're supposed to read much into that
But, yeah.
as far as
The awkwardness comes from the fact that he's having physical responses, right? But he's a kid, and it's
robot
that
kid.
awkward, like he's right on the edge of puberty, and he's attracted to Nanachi. It's assumed, but like it's not sexual because he's not old enough for it to be sexual, and he loves her.
Like I don't see a problem with the I think the Rex stuff. I think that's really interesting. I think it's funny. I think that gag is funny. What I don't, but it is the fact that it's sexualized in the writing is the thing it's just another one of those things. We've talked about it at length about this show.
Yeah.
That's where it is weird to me because I think because that's the thing. I think that that's a funny gag. I think that the idea of like this furry, like just having this friend and this furry be like, I'd love to just pet it. Like, you know what I mean? It's I get the same impulse when I go over to any of my friends' houses who have cats. I'm like, just want to ruffle a little bit.
Get
Just,
friends
you
with
know.
fluffy hair, and people always want to
Yeah,
rub their heads.
exactly. Yeah,
Same
yeah.
sort of thing.
I mean, they
right?
do that with Rico too. She's also like, you're
Right.
so furry. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's just another one of those things.
when you said if I had a furry friend, my mind was going a different direction with that. So
if one of your friends was a furry, but you guys didn't know, hypothetically, would you want that person to tell you?
and would you have sexual feelings for them?
Hypothetically. Yeah, no, that's for another time. But yeah, so let's talk about the Negareg stuff a little bit more too. He basically achieves that by just pumping himself full of all the electricity, or as Blanchard makes the distinction later, all the power. Which I don't know. I just thought that
I don't
was
know what they're going for
interesting.
with that
yeah,
line.
I'm not sure why. Like in a thing where it's like I feel like time is pretty precious, to like as far as like conveying information. Like that felt like a weird. I was like, power. Okay, yeah, maybe that's not so important.
I like when he pulls apart that cable. It's like drawn the same way as the gore in this show.
Yes.
Like it's like ripping apart all these
Yeah.
innards.
There is some gooping, and there's a lot of gooping in this, like a movie as well.
Was there
Lots
goop
of
in the cables?
fluids? No, but I'm just like that-
when Bondrewd, his body dies, right?
Yes, yeah, that, and all the briefcases and all the surgery on his arm, like
And the fish gut. This
yes,
which
oh
is
yeah,
essentially like star fruit is essentially what that was. You ever had star fruit?
Looks like, yeah.
Not star fruit, dragon fruit.
dragon fruit,
Yeah.
green, yeah. Anyways, god damn it.
Sorry. I fucking suck. All right. I'm going to get us back on track. Negareg, spaghetti arms, and spadutus, or whatever was that Italian word you said.
Linguine, no, sparagmos.
Sparagmos.
It's elbow
Sparagamos.
spaghetti. That's
Sparagamos.
Somewhere in this Negreg thing, we also learned that white whistles get their whistles by having somebody close to them die.
Oh right, yeah.
And we don't really get more information than that, and it makes you wonder how Ozen got her whistle, how Liza got her whistle.
Sure.
It's kind of an uncomfortable question, and Rico realizes that too. You can, when that reveal is made, it's like, these white whistles who I admire, how did they get theirs?
Yeah, yet another detail. Like that's, I feel so overwhelmed by the information in this set of things. This movie, set of scenes. I don't know. I'm so disoriented. But yeah, what am I missing? I know I'm missing 30,000 things. Truman, what else
I mean,
do you
they
think we need to talk about?
Reg loses his arm, they go outside, using some of Rico's knowledge, they ambush Bondrewd, kill his body.
Which that sequence was really interesting and cool, and I was like, holy shit, they just fucking killed Bondrewd. Like I legitimately, and then I was like, oh my god, so they were just gonna fuck him up so bad, and then be like, we're keeping you alive just long enough to blow that whistle, and I was like, holy shit, these it's getting fucking insane out here. And then it got even more insane by totally like revealing what a rube I was for thinking Bone Druid would be dead. Like, holy shit.
Also, his next incarnation had a tail.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I thought that sequence was so cool and is like a great example of when this show does great storytelling through action. Because there's still a lot of dialogue over that of like explaining, now that you're kind of laying out the plans that's happening.
That's something I didn't like. There was, I think, 2 instances in this movie, and that was one of them where they do the thing. And you're like, wait, how the fuck did they do? What the fuck is that dart? And they're just like, oh, it's it's this thing. And then they just kind of move on. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I have to just buy along for that, which is a time constraint thing, I'm sure. But it's like that is frustrating when it's like big turns are just kind of swept aside when we spend time on other things that aren't maybe as important, I guess.
Yeah, and I think again, like, just it feels like definitely a casualty of that shift from the show to the movies. So
Definitely.
So
yeah.
I mean, I would assume that the Bone Druid we are introduced to is probably he did said that his whistle is himself, right?
Yes.
Like
The original Bone Druid is the human that was sacrificed to make his whistle.
which is interesting, I think, because that would imply, I mean, I assume all the other white whistles got theirs from someone who was actually close to them. And this guy, the only person who was actually close to this fucking monster was himself.
Well,
and
that's like the most humane thing that he's done in pursuit of whatever the hell.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else he did was sacrificing others, but this first thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but it would also imply too that he had already figured out how to had already found it's a relic, right? That the zeitgeist, the butt.
Zoaholic.
Zohawk, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The zeitgeist machine.
He had already found that and learned how to use it.
Yes.
And he's like, so he was not a white whistle yet by that point.
No, he was not.
And he was like, I'm a black whistle, but I know how I'm going to become a white whistle. I'm going to cheat the fucking system. And so, yeah, so who knows how many times he's died, and like the one we're introduced to could be like number 300, like who knows.
But they all share a consciousness.
Yeah, which is weird. Do they all share
This is not explained well at all in the movie, and in the manga it's even nebulous, but he can control multiple bodies at the same time, which is why the scene with Reg and the Umbra Hands, he's in control of them.
Okay.
But only to a certain degree.
Right.
But it's why they're acting very weird and inhuman, because at other times, when he's not in control, the Umbra Hands are themselves.
Right.
Which is how you get the guy in the garden with the flamethrower.
Oh, right.
Just being, he's cold, but he's a dude. He's not.
Didn't they mention, like, I'm trying to remember, something about them, like, kind of going crazy?
Yes.
What was that? What caused them to do that? I can't remember.
Fragmenting across too many bodies at the same time, or like sharing too many consciousnesses.
So I don't know how the Zogaholic works or whatever, but you just throw people into the butt, they come out, and they're like, you're now one of my hive minds? Is that like the idea? Or
pretty much.
Okay. And so like
something like
the
that.
more people you shove into the butt,
Stop this right now.
This has been a theme of the show, is putting things in butts, and here we are.
Just the phrase, so you throw someone into the butt and they're part of the hive mind, is... Man, yeah.
And when we're talking about anime here.
In anime, we call this a Tuesday.
But they start to lose their mind, which, like, if he's... But I guess there's a designated one then? Is that how it works, Truman? I'm just asking you all these questions I need to know.
There's somebody who's primarily in control.
So, like, when his other one dies and it transfers to that other dude, he was, like, already selected, or, like, already a vessel for the Holy Spirit type of thing. Like,
right.
Okay.
And then the guy who dies astral projects himself into the other one.
Okay, and this guy has a tail, so like at some point he's like, dude, you want to be sick? We put a tail from this creature on your ass.
And he's totally not human, though. Like, he's got the tail. We see his eye, which opens up to be a bunch of little eyes, which then open up to have tentacles. And like, it's...
Yeah.
He's definitely not human.
And then at the end, I guess that just is reiterating that the consciousness is passed again? Because the Blanchard we see at the very end he just has like a normal looking
he's
green
human.
eye. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get that until just now. I'm getting that now. Yeah.
But so where I was kind of going with that, I just want to understand before I started on this path here of, I don't know. I think that Blanchard is such an interesting character. He's horrible and awful.
He's a scary villain, but he's compelling.
Very cold, confident, and like his once again great choice on the voice acting and the performance there. It's terrifying. He's scary in like in just a cool, confident way. Like not cool as in like admirable, cool as in like, you know, like cold.
He never gets angry.
Yeah.
Or shows any emotion except interest.
Yeah, he's very inquisitive as fuck.
In the fight where he's getting murdered by Reg the first time, he's like, you guys came up with this plan on your own? That is incredible. And he's so thrilled about that as he's dying.
That which was that was another reason. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, they got this guy, and like his true colors, like fuck this guy, fuck him, he's dead, fuck him, fuck no, shit, god damn it.
But I think that like, I don't know. I wonder if there is some sort of like, you shove people in the butt, they get more.
God damn it.
The more butt shoved people you have, the more insane they go. If you're transferring into their bodies, are you losing a bit of your mind as well doing that? I wonder. And like, I mean, obviously the White Whistles are all fucked up individuals, but the ones we've met the only other one we've really met so far has at least had some fucked up version of humanity left in her. This guy is so far gone and seems so disconnected. Like, I wonder if it does remind me a bit of. Has everyone seen Annihilation?
No.
Not yet. I read the book.
Okay, I don't want to spoil it. God, that's going to be hard to talk about.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay, for those who have seen it, I just will say this. It's going to be a lot shorter than I intended. Kind of the reveal of what is going on in that and the motivations of the stuff in that is very much kind of how I see Blanchard now. Is like he is, God, how do I do this? Yeah. He just. Do you get what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
He's kind of really far gone at this point. That I like. Obviously, he was always a terrible person to do the things he was doing.
Yeah.
I think at this point, it's like, I mean, you can judge him, but it's like, it almost feels pointless to.
Yeah.
Because he seems like a husk that's just kind of like
Doing what he does.
Yeah, he's just a force now.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
Well, and I think it's one of those things, kind of thinking in terms of Annihilation, like the idea being someone who feels bound by a sense of morality, trying to understand or judge someone who is entirely unfettered from morality is horrifying and frustrating and impossible.
And that's why I think that last confrontation with Nanachi, I'm like, I don't know how you make that more, like, it was a little unsatisfying. I don't know how you make that more satisfying with a character like that. Because it's like, and part of me thinks that's kind of cool because we as a viewer then can connect with Nanachi a bit. There's like, there's nothing you can say to get at this guy. There's nothing you can do. And that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I think like we've talked about that moment with his death. That feels like in my mind, it's like that is the satisfying conclusion based on what we've seen him do, what we've seen. You know what I mean? But that is not the one that we get,
and it tears Reg up to do it too.
Yes,
which is consistent with his character.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is really interesting. I'm glad we're talking about this because it really it's so hard coming out of that movie. Like, there's so much that I feel like I missed and like stuff to do. But yeah.
I would recommend the show on its own merits. I would recommend this movie for Blanchard because he is horrifying. He is amoral, and the way that like he remembers the names of all of the children who are at in his garden, quote unquote, and he remembers the names of all of the children and their aspirations who are cartridges that he's using. He's messed up. Yeah. And it seems like he has what maybe once was a noble goal. Like he's trying to do something good. And what happens with Prushka, I think, is particularly horrifying because if the implication is that by receiving the blessing of the Abyss, he won't have to use cartridges anymore, It's like he's raising one child in order to not have to use other children, which I mean, like
Yeah.
right. It's wrong that he uses children, of course, but there's a weird ethic in there somewhere that's
True.
disturbing.
Yeah, I think it's something that it's like you can't really put any empathy or emotional understanding behind, I guess, as a viewer, but it is intriguing as a character, like to have him have such like a cold, pretty much everything you just described, like
But he remembers them.
yeah,
And that, as a member of the audience, makes you try and project empathy onto him somehow.
Yeah.
but you're immediately like, fuck it. Like,
Right?
it's like, I ain't doing that. Like, but it is, I think, very interesting in the fact that he is such a complex character. Like, I think that's my favorite part about this story so far is that between him and Nanachi, I mean, they're both tied together in their narratives, but like, and they're incredibly fucked up narratives, but like, they're very, very complex characters.
Yeah.
And on multiple levels and in very different ways. And yeah, I love, that's what I love about the show at the most. I think it's just the narrative structure is fine for me. I enjoy it, but really these complex characters and complex situations they're bringing up are very intriguing.
Yeah. I think one thing I've kind of noticed too, like just kind of talk about Nanachi and Blanchard real quick. Nanachi frequently refers to the relationship that she has as treasures. Like we don't really ever hear her say she loves something, but we frequently hear Bondrewd talk about love, and it has
I never
become this
put that
thing
together.
that the way that he talks about love feels incredibly cold.
Sterile,
Like we've talked
yeah.
about. It is a tool for him now. It is just another thing. And it is, I think even when he talks about the kids, we talked about wanting to project empathy on him, but even when he talks about the kids, it feels like those aspirations just feel like, again, tools that he can, you know what I mean? It's like, it's such a fascinating
Ways
thing.
that he can manipulate them, or
Yeah.
facts that he just remembers. But the fact that he remembers them, just
Right.
that kills me. It's
Yeah.
so horrifying.
But yeah, I think those characters are really great.
It's like he's gone through the checklist of what having love and empathy is, and he checks the box by remembering their names and their aspirations. But he's completely
How to be a
divorced.
person. It's like, oh, I've done it.
I was going to say, this sounds like any management training I've ever had, any office job I've ever been. People love to hear their names. They love it. God damn you.
But I think that goes
fuckers.
along with what I was saying about the whole concept of this story being just about adulthood, of that's a bad father, right? Like that's a parent who just goes through the checklist, like you said, Gwen, is a good way to put it. Of like that's not a good parent, even though they look like they're hitting the marks they're supposed to. You can still do that and still be doing horrific damage to a human being, and I think that just makes this character more interesting too.
It kills me about him and Prushka, because when we see her origin, we are seeing him pick her and go, oh, you can be the love that I need. Like, it's not like he took her in and helped her be healthy and then was like, hey, maybe this can be what I use you for. From the get-go, that's why he rescued her.
Yeah, and the fact that what we talked about earlier, where like the White Whistles himself indicating that there was no one close to him, like this was probably the only person that ever cared for him ever. Like, it's fucked up. This fucking show.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Man. I'm glad we talked about this, because there's, like I said, there's so much information. I feel like I will need to revisit this at some form. Maybe it'll be in the manga this time, and like, I don't know. I'm interested in maybe seeing that, but
Watching it again, I was able to get a more cohesive view of the narrative,
Sure.
which was nice. There's a line when Riko sees the slave soul machine in the room, and she mentions something else next to it, and Nanachi says, okay, don't let me see that. I was like, what is she talking about? It's Reg's arm. And so Riko gets Reg's arm and brings it and uses it in the ambush to kill
Oh.
Bondrewd.
I see.
And because Bondrewd can, through a relic, presumably, use Nanachi's sight to see things, she doesn't want the arm to be revealed as their trump card. I didn't get that until the second go of the movie, and I read the manga and didn't get it going through the manga. So
Okay. Yeah.
there's a lot.
There's so much. Yeah, I'm do we have any kind of closing thoughts? We've been going on for so long. I think that we've covered most of it. Not
Did you get your rage out, Gwen?
Sure. I will say never fucking again. I might watch to the end, maybe question mark, lots of confused scribbling, but I will not repeat that experience. Talking about it has made it better and like helped me maybe impose a cohesion on what I experienced, but yeah.
If we're
Talking
going
about it has been good.
If we're going for the themes, I mean, you're describing what it feels like to grow up.
I think I prefer Alice in Wonderland.
The LSD instead of the whatever this is.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Real quick, they took the eyeball elevator down. The
Yes.
eyeball elevator was not built by Blanchard, correct?
No.
It was like it's like an ancient relic.
Yes.
By some people who were like, we got to find a way down there, but you got to kill someone who loves you first. Like,
Yeah, we don't know much more than, hey,
And
Edo
turn
Front's
their-
built on the bones of a ritual site.
turn their calcified essence into a whistle so you can blow into their corpse, and then that will open the elevator. Who are these?
Yeah, you got to make sure who you're willing to sacrifice has good acoustics, so they could even be used as a whistle.
Blanchard's probably like a
Who knows?
direct descendant from these assholes. Like,
If they could breed. Given how monstrous they appear to be.
Yeah. Well, that's the end for us so far of Made in Abyss.
we're
done. Yeah, this podcast is over. What have we done? But yeah, there will be another season. We know that the TV show is continuing. So when that's back on, we'll have to continue this discussion. Truman, we'd love to have you back for that for sure.
Happy to come back for that.
Okay. Good.
Having read the manga, it'll be interesting.
Every step of the way, I feel like that's all I've been able to hear from Truman is just like, it goes places. And
do you
now,
remember the first
now
two
I'm, like, far
episodes
more
of the show?
prepared.
Yeah, my kids watched those ones.
But yeah, so we'll revisit the Abyss at some point. We'll stare into it as it stares into us, and but until then, we'll be watching some other stuff. Yes.
Just a closing thought on the Abyss. Watching this show feels like what Gwen doesn't understand about cave raiders going into the Abyss.
Yeah.
It's traumatizing. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
And you can't look away. You have to know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's why I said never fucking again, but I might. I don't know, man.
Would you say you're going to delve deeper and never get back up? This is some
Maybe
meta
I need to walk
shit.
away. Maybe I'm Rico.
how big is your forehead?
Yeah, that line.
Oh God. But yeah, so we'll be back in the next couple weeks. We still have to talk about this. I feel like tentatively the leftovers. I don't know. But we will take a quick break and be back with some recommendations just after this music. Welcome back to the recommendations section of the podcast where we talk about other stuff that is not Made in Abyss or whatever we've watched a week, whatever we watch and listen to, whatever. Justin, what did you have to recommend for us?
Yeah, I have not finished this yet. I expect to finish it sometime soon because I don't think it's a very long experience. But I started playing Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade, this week. I'm just a few hours into it, and like gameplay-wise, it's not anything special. But the way that the story is being told and the way that you experience it with the sound design in the game and just kind of like this psychological aspect experience that you have with the main character is really cool. Came out a long time ago. I think Tyler and Tyler have both tried to get me to play it before. But yeah, I'm finally getting through that, and I would definitely recommend it because it's really cool.
Yeah, and it isn't too long of an experience. You're probably pretty close. But yeah, that's cool. I remember the first time I played that game, and it's like very upfront. It's like fucking put headphones on.
Yeah.
I remember putting it on, and like stuff starts to happen, and I like kept reflexively turning around because it feels like there's someone like leaning into and whispering into your ear. It's like, it's crazy. That's some incredible audio work in that game.
The way that works with the combat that occurs is really cool, because it's hard to keep track of like where all the enemies are sometimes. Keep them in front of you, and if you manage to get like in a spot where somebody's behind you, you hear a whisper about like it's behind you, and so you got to spin around and block or attack or whatever. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And I was really glad that like right up front at the beginning of the game it says like we confronted. That's not the right word.
Oh, I see where we're going.
We brought in people who are experts on psychosis and like people who have dealt with psychosis or have mental,
like schizophrenia.
Yeah, who experience these things and people who treat these things, and they helped us make this game. And it's like right up front, so you kind of like you're like, oh, what am I getting into going into this? And yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's great. Cool. I don't really have any new recommendations this week. It's been kind of crazy, but I'm playing more of that Hitman 3, and it's a hit, man. It's so good. It is so good. I'm loving it so much. Just if the phrase murder sandbox sounds fun to you, fucking get you some Hitman. It's very fun. But that's it for me. Gwen, what did you have to recommend for us?
Same sort of thing. I'm still working through my not originable series. And it's just fun, guys. And I'm realizing after watching a review for one of the earlier books that the author, instead of choosing to do a ton of world building, he does everything happens in character development. And it's fun and it's interesting. And then I'm going to recommend, even though it's been a minute, The Girl with All the Gifts, because it's great.
All right.
Journey of a Meme
movie
Smith.
on Netflix you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. It will hurt you. Look, Mark says not your topical... God damn it. Not your typical zombie book. It's zombies.
This is Mark's review. Our friend Mark?
Yes, our friend Mark.
I was wondering. Okay.
Is Mark says it?
You
on
know,
the
Marky
website?
Mark.
Mark says. New segment. But anyways, it's zombies, but it's from the point of a little girl who is infected with whatever it is, and she's in some sort of prison, and they're experimenting on her. And I don't want to say any more than that, but it's really incredible in weird ways. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Truman, did you have anything for us?
I picked up Control recently. I'd recommend it so far. It's an interesting world to be in. It all takes place in the oldest house, which is this giant, nebulous government building. And I am on my second pass of Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. It's very good. I like world building and good characters, and both of those are present in spades in this book and in this series in general.
Cool. Is that the
Fourth, yeah.
Okay.
The fourth of the 5 in the first arc, which is 5 books. The second arc is another 5 books to make 10 books total.
Oh.
So
he's found out how to turn anime
80,
into
I'll
a
finish
novel.
it.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
getting. Okay. Tyler, what did you have for us?
All right, I did a lot.
Tyler's anime corner is up next.
Yeah, I have reached that point, I guess, where I am just watching a lot of anime. I explained it earlier. I am just in a point in my life where I just don't give a fuck. So I still hate a lot of things about anime, but I just kind of ignore them for the things that I love, which is the zany, bonkers, swinging for the fences shit. So to leave off for last week, here's my in-depth review of Blade of the Immortal. So I finished Blade of the Immortal, the anime, and I watched Blade of the Immortal, the live-action adaptation. The anime didn't start out super strong. Probably wasn't going to finish it, but it started getting better. It is a hard recommendation, to be honest. This show has some really fantastic moments, and I'm like, you gotta watch it. The show has some severe flaws. We talked about Made in Abyss of looking for opportunities to get your child sex stuff on. Like, this show looks for opportunities just to be depraved as fuck. Like, it's about a guy who can't die, and this girl whose parents get killed by this rival dojo, essentially, and she hires him to kill all the people in this rival dojo. And boy, is this show fucked up. Like, I mean, compared to what we just watched, it's it's just normal real world fucked up, but like
just your garden variety, every day.
Yeah.
But it's hard because it is very problematic. There's a lot of rape in this, and there's a rape scene in this which is the most disturbing rape scene I have seen in anything, and it's not necessary, and it's over the top, and it's frustrating. So it's a hard recommendation for me to recommend because has really great moments, but there is a lot of that bullshit. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. The movie, it tries to get 14 hours of content into 2 hours, and surprisingly, they did hardly cut any characters.
Wow.
And it suffers for that. Like, the first 30 minutes is legitimately like the first episode. I was like, how the hell are they gonna get through all this? And they try. And I don't think I can recommend the movie. If you're gonna watch anything Blade of the Immortal, watch the anime, but be warned, it's
with a massive caveat.
Yeah. Then I needed something else. It's completely different. So I watched a Japanese animation flick called Redline. And Redline is, if you watch Star Wars Episode 1, your favorite scene in that was the pod race. And you're like, man, I really wish this and Speed Racer would have a baby, and the guy from Invader Zim made it. That would be Redline. It's an intergalactic, it's sci-fi. I mean, the movie starts on a planet of dog people, and there's this crazy race happening, and it's all about racing, and it's Mario Kart-esque Speed Racer bullshit where people are killing each other and launching things out of their car and stuff. It's great. It's wild. It's a movie, so it's standalone. The animation is gross and awesome. It's very heavily cel shaded, like lots of black everywhere. Just weird character designs, bonkers choices, beautiful animation movement going on.
Is this is a little older, right?
I think it came out in 2015, 16.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the year, but I mean, it's dumb. Mm-hmm. I just had a good time. So if you need something that's like just wild and you want something like self-contained like a movie, I think, and you're into weird animation shit, I think Redline is a definite recommend. Okay. It's on Amazon Prime Video, I think. Cool. And then I started 2 more anime.
The glutton for punishment, this man.
There's one called I can't even pronounce it. Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress, which is zombies, trains, Japanese steampunk. Beautiful animation, high budget, lots of anime bullshit, so I kind of bounced off of it. Pretty much everything I hate about anime is like there in full force there. So then I switched gears completely and started watching something called Babylon. And Babylon's very new, I think. I think it's only been out. It came out last year, I think. And man, I'm on board. I would say I would be more on board if it was live action, I think. I think if it was like a live action, because it's like a public prosecutor who's trying to solve this mystery, and things take a really dark, weird turn that, yeah, that's all I'll say. And I've only watched 4 episodes, but I am hooked. There's only 12, so
Is that on Netflix?
that
or-
is also on Amazon
Amazon.
Prime.
Okay.
That's where I'm getting all my anime right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Because every Netflix anime I've tried has let me down hard. Oh, except Dorohedoro. I love Dorohedoro. That's it. That's all I did.
Okay, awesome. Well, we will be back within the next couple weeks. I think right now we're planning on starting The Leftovers HBO show. And I'm really excited to jump into and start talking about. But until then, if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram or Twitter at rewatcherspod. But until then, sayonara. You've been here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
our special guest, so we can't wait till we get back in that chair.
Truman Blanchard.
See you later, you cuties.
Ready.